No, that's right.
I could change that for you.
That's right. We're all wandering around talking. It's really late. Oh, here, and we're waiting for Pat. Now we can start. There's Pat. Sorry, Pat. I was hanging in there until you got here. Campbell was going to take notes for you, but he didn't trust those notes.
Well, yeah, I get a good story when that.
All righty. Well, welcome everybody, and let's get started. It's nice to see people want to come out in the summer and actually participate in municipal politics. We're one of the few, I think, around that don't close down. I mean, some of the others are closing down for some of it, but we're trying to just do one this month unless something comes up that we have to do more. Yeah. All right. So we're already in open session, and I'll just minutes of the previous meeting. And we have, as you notice on my left, I have the Deputy CEO, Gord Duff is handling, well, Bill's down in the sunny south of Texas. Hopefully it's like 110 degrees. I came back from California, it's 100. I don't know how people live in that weather. I kind of like our colder weather. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Caldwell, that the minutes of the July 22nd, 2014 council meetings be approved as circulated. All in favor? All right. Additional items as disclosed? Might have one. Okay.
Until I think about it.
Yeah. All good?
All right, now,
Well, you know, always fill in later.
I know you're pretty good at that.
I'm pretty lenient when it comes to that. I am. Moved by Councilor Turton, second by Councilor Elliott, the Town of Minto Council convenes in the committee of the whole. All in favor? We have no public meetings, but we have a great delegation today, and I'll have Phil Beard, General Manager of the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, if you'd like to come up and with your troops. I imagine, is everybody coming up with you? Steve. Just Steve? Okay. Now, we are going to get another microphone, but we have been getting complaints from our TV audience, and that we have to make sure you speak, whoever's speaking speaks into that one mic, and when we get our second one, we're going to blow the budget to get two mics, because it's kind of nice when people actually phone in and complain they can't hear the speakers. So obviously that you've got a lot to say, and we want to make sure that you're well heard, Phil.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Ridge and members of council. I've got Steve Jackson, our water resources engineer, with me here today to help with the presentation, and Jane Thompson, our communications coordinator, is here as well. And the purpose of our presentation is to outline the changes that we're making to our organization over the next few years. The board of directors asked me to get out on the road this summer and talk to as many councils as possible about the changes we're proposing, and then they'll review the feedback we get at their September meeting. So this is my summer vacation. So we'd like to get your feedback on the changes, and I'll use some visuals to help me with the presentation. I'm going to cover, basically expand upon the letter that our chair, Deb Schufelt, sent out, and the newsletter that went with that. I'll cover the background on MVCA and the need for change. Steve's going to cover the changes we're making to flood and erosion safety services and watershed stewardship, and then I'll cover the changes to conservation area services and our financial challenges. So I think, as all of you know, Maitland Valley is owned, governed, and mainly financed by the 15 municipalities in the watershed. We were established by the province at the request of the municipalities in the watershed back in 1951. Municipalities recognize the importance of looking after our natural resources and wanted a way to work on issues that went beyond municipal boundaries, such as flooding and water quality issues. So we're restructuring our services to do fewer things better. That's the focus. We just don't have the resources to continue to offer the wide range of services that we have over the past 50 years, or to maintain all of the infrastructure and equipment that we own. We want to strengthen our flood and erosion safety services and watershed stewardship extension, mainly due to the value of development and land that we have in hazardous areas and in agriculture. So we'll now turn the presentation over to Steve to outline the priorities in flood and erosion safety and watershed stewardship.
Thank you. There are three things that the Flood and Erosion Safety Service needs to do well, and the first is flood forecasting. There are several thousand residents that live and work in flood-prone areas. These areas are worth $140 million of assessment spread over 14 communities. We need to maintain a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week flood forecast network so we can provide flood warning advice to first responders. The network consists of 16 stream gauges and 32 rain gauges strategically spread throughout the watershed. We have $500,000 worth of equipment and software that we need to maintain. Changes in our climate are resulting in a higher probability for intense rainfall events, such as the rainfall, the thunderstorm that occurred in Molesworth in 2005 that resulted in 200 millimeters of rain, so 8 inches of rainfall over several hours. And this is very similar to just the thunderstorm that hit Burlington yesterday. Earlier this year, we had a thunderstorm that produced nearly 3 inches of rain in an hour close to Molesworth as well. These rainfall events increase the risk of damage to municipal infrastructure, such as roads, culverts, and municipal drains. We have added a water resources technician so that we can ensure that the system is always operational and that we're able to deliver flood forecasting services 365 days a year. The second thing we need to do well is ensure that our municipalities are well prepared to respond to a flood or erosion emergency. We're helping with staff training and ensuring that there's a practical flood and erosion emergency plan in place. In the Maitland watershed, there may be only hours to respond to a flood warning message. That means that all the planning needs to be done well in advance. Along the 50 kilometers of Lake Huron shoreline that is within our area of jurisdiction, there's over $366 million worth of land development located in areas that is susceptible to erosion. On the slide behind me, the yellow lines outline the land that is at risk from gully erosion. There are just under 2,000 acres of land that's worth close to $90 million that is at risk. The third thing we need to do well is to have strong technical support and floodplain information to assist our member municipalities to make good decisions with respect to land use planning and development in areas that are susceptible to flooding and erosion. So in riverine floodplain areas, we need to have up-to-date floodplain mapping based upon standards that reflect the potential for flooding in a changing climate. So that covers the flood safety service. So moving on to the watershed stewardship service, MVCA views strengthening our extension service as key to supporting landowners who are interested in undertaking soil and water conservation projects. The major focus is to help landowners identify the key conservation systems that will help them keep the soil and nutrients on the land and out of our watercourses. The question is why? Because there are over 470,000 acres of prime farmland in the Maitland and 9 Mile watersheds worth close to $4.7 billion. The stewardship service will focus on improving our technical resources in rural stormwater management, soil health, soil and water conservation, and reforestation of marginal land, windbreaks, and buffer strips. The key conservation system that we think that is needed to keep soil and nutrients on the land is the development of rural stormwater management systems. These systems act to slow the water down, allow it to spread out and soak in. And that way nutrients, soil and nutrients will stay on the land and out of the water courses. We want to have the expertise in order to help landowners and municipalities develop these systems where they are needed. Rural stormwater management will also help to reduce the potential for roads to be flooded and washouts to occur. We want to work with the municipalities and landowners to buffer water courses, fields, and roads through the installation of buffer strips, windbreaks, and living snow fences. There are 50,000 acres of marginal farmland in production in the watershed. We are changing our approach to reforestation service so that we can increase the number of reforestation projects across the watershed. We are contracting out our actual planting to 3 private contractors so that our staff can focus on helping more landowners develop tree planting projects.
Hmm.
Can I pass this over to you?
Yep. So this is just a summary of the number of clean water projects that we've done across the watershed in the past 8.5 years, and the economic value of those, or it's also economic development in a way. So that's $7.5 million worth of projects that have been done. And in Minto alone over that period, there's been 81 projects worth just over $1 million over that past 8.5 year period. So people in Minto are participating in conservation, and we're hoping with projects like the Trees for Farms, that there'll even be more projects, and we'd just like to see the Trees for Farms project be enhanced a little bit to look at rural stormwater management as well, because we need to work on holding that water back. So if we're gonna put more resources into strengthening those two services, unfortunately, in other areas, we're gonna have to look at cutting back and doing things very differently. So conservation areas is one service that we're gonna have to look at ways to reduce maintenance and infrastructure. So we've got 28 conservation areas and 4,600 acres of land, and over the last 18 years, we have disposed of all of our surplus properties. Sorry. Nope, wrong way. There we go. So we've got $3.4 million worth of equipment and infrastructure, and that's their replacement value, not their historical value. And most of this infrastructure is aging and in need of major maintenance or replacement. So two examples are, we own 2 old mills, one in Gorey and one in Brussels, which are surplus to our needs and in need of maintenance. And we did put roofs on them about 6 or 7 years ago to at least protect them a little bit, but we're trying to find some options for dealing with these structures because, you know, as you know, as municipalities, we can't continue to look after infrastructure that really is surplus to our needs. So our board's going to be looking at options for dealing with these structures over the next 3 years. And at Falls Reserve, the infrastructure there requires major upgrades. We don't have the resources to undertake it. Most of the infrastructure went in the 70s with 85% grant from the province. There's approximately $1 million worth of upgrades needed now. So what we're looking at is putting together a request for proposals to see if we can find somebody from the private sector that would like to lease that campground and upgrade the facilities. So we're looking at that for a start date of the camping season in 2016. The other challenge in terms of our corporate services, our board has set a priority to try and stabilize our funding base for operating and capital over the next 3 years. Our challenge is that our revenues are still at 1993 levels, while our expenses are in 2014 dollars. And the board wants to limit levy increases over the next 2 years to between $55,000 and $58,000 per year, which is a gap from what we really need. We also want to have a $50,000 of levy that we can direct towards maintaining our essential infrastructure and equipment by 2016. And by essential, I'm saying to keep our flood forecast system running and make sure our extension staff have the equipment that they need to do their work. So we're looking to reduce our tangible capital assets from $3.4 million to $2 million by 2016, and stabilize our operating budget for the core services for flood and erosion safety and watershed stewardship extension by 2017. So we need approximately $86,000 in additional funding and or savings for operating in 2015, and we want to have at least $35,000 that we can put towards infrastructure and equipment in 2015. Our projected shortfall for next year is about $66,150. So you can see where the gap is when we're trying to keep the levies between 55 and 58 and still have a gap of 66. So that's the challenge they've given to me and the other staff, to find additional revenues and savings over the next year. So our board realizes that business as usual is not an option if we want to get ourselves in a position to strengthen our core services and do fewer things better. So we'd appreciate your feedback on the changes that we are making and the priorities that we've identified, so that I could take those comments back to our board in September. So with that, Mayor Bridge, I'll open it up for questions and discussion.
Questions for?
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Guys, thanks for coming. All three of those items that you've outlined as important, what you're saying is you're just hitting the items that you believe are the most important. other conservation authorities, they're all in the same boat. I mean, we're all in the same boat, right?
We're all in the same boat, whether it's municipalities or conservation authorities.
Mhm. So are they kind of doing the same thing, or do you touch base with the other?
Oh, yes,
conservation all the time?
we do, but we are looking at the unique needs of our watershed and priorities of our municipalities. What the others are doing, I think they're all doing various degrees of this. But they own, each of their boards and municipalities set the priorities.
Yeah.
So some may have different priorities than ourselves. But we look at the value of agricultural land that we have and the amount of development in flood and erosion risk areas, and the board felt that we needed to really focus on helping our municipalities with those risks.
And you're close to a lake.
We are close to a lake with,
I traveled that beach down there on the weekend, and, yeah, it's an interesting beach.
yes, with those 25 to 30-meter clay
Mhm.
bluffs. Most of those subdivisions went in before there was any planning controls or drainage requirements. And as a result, we have a lot of development in areas that are prone to erosion and bluff collapse and shoreline erosion.
Councillor Falcon.
Thank you. I'm still very concerned about the lack of effort that our provincial and federal government put towards conservation. Is that part of your strategic plan to lobby? And I'm thinking because of your strategy towards flood control.
Yep.
And development, that certainly falls into their strategic plan in respect to emergency planning. And can't get through my head that we're not getting funding from the provincial government in respect to your strategic plan here. And then my part B of that kind of question is, I know your impact of 121,000. Is that to be spread over the municipalities in the Valley Conservation Law?
No.
Or is that per municipality?
The 55 to 58,000 a year is to be spread over the municipalities. The board wants to limit the levy between 55 and
Okay,
58,000.
okay.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
gap is sort of my challenge, our staff's challenge to try and find. So to go back to your first question on lobbying, yes, we will be talking to our local MPPs and MPs, and our association is also talking to the provincial government as part of all 36 conservation authorities. But the gap is that the ministries that we work with, MOE, MNR, and OMAF, are all the ministries that have been targeted for cuts. So these issues aren't a priority as yet, but events like we're seeing in Burlington the other day are now bringing climate change to have a higher visibility. And I think that's why Glenn Murray has been put in as the minister there. The federal government has announced a flood damage program and are trying to put some details around that, but I think the initial study they had done just to look at the costs of doing things like floodplain mapping was like 120 million more than even they'd proposed for the entire program for the next 5 years. So they haven't got their heads around the actual costs of work that needs to be done. And neither has the province. We've sent them an outline of how much funding we think is needed. It just hasn't risen on the priority.
That's going to pale in comparison to
That's
what
right,
it's going to cost
right.
to make things right if you don't do
Yes.
things right.
It also hasn't, to be honest, hasn't been a priority with AMO, these issues and funding for conservation authorities. So if they're not also at the table pushing the province, then it makes it difficult for us.
I was going to ask you that because I haven't seen any AMO announcements or anything on this. So maybe as municipalities, we have to be a little bit more proactive in AMO, maybe get it to come forward as maybe an issue. And I totally agree with you based on the economic development side of things. And I thought your presentation was really good on that, both Steve and yours, Bill, on explaining where it is, where it affects the dollar amounts.
Right.
And I think we have to keep hammering on that because I think people have this misunderstanding that it's just, the conservation authorities one time had the nice little parkettes, and they had this and whatever, but that's not really what it's all about.
That's right.
Yeah. I think you've hit it, nailed it dead on with this report, and I mentioned it before, that these are issues that certainly from our standpoint, from Minto, they're major issues that we adjust with the flooding, and we've worked very well with you guys on that. And we've even identified in our budget to put more money into it. We're doing some flood forecasting and some flood planning looking, and I think this whole idea of having this slow down, that where we can develop that is important, yeah.
I think unless we put the economic numbers, we're not gonna get the province and the feds
So
attention.
I think you're definitely right on the right track there, and I think that's something we all have to play a part in.
And because we're in rural Ontario, we even have a tougher time because the
Yep.
urban agenda tends
Yep.
to dominate.
Yep.
with-
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I noticed that you're saying that some of your equipment and buildings and such like are deteriorating. Have you budgeted in the past for reserves to upgrade them as it come forward, or something that you're going to do in the future, or how's that thought of that?
We do have reserves, not enough to cover all of the infrastructure and equipment that we need. I think our reserves are sitting around 600,000 is where we're sitting, so. We forecast 3 years ahead of what we need, and I think for flood equipment alone, we're looking at how much over the next 3 years? Yeah, next year's infrastructure and equipment budget is $147,000 alone, so. And we're saying we'd like to get to having 35,000 we can put towards equipment and infrastructure, so we do have a gap. I think over the next 3 years, we're closer to 400 to 450,000 is what the need is. So that's quickly gonna eat up reserves if we continue with the same path. So that's why we're looking at places like Falls Reserve, where there's $1 million worth of infrastructure there that we're looking to offload or to decommission.
So second part of that too, and I was looking at those two buildings,
Yeah.
one in Gorey and one in Brussels, and the options, maybe one of the options would be to tear them down. I don't know whether that's the
Yep.
option or not. Do you expect there to be resistance from the communities? Like, if I remember in the past, Gorey had some historical
Yep.
group that wanted to keep that mill up or upgraded and such like.
Yep.
Do you expect that'll raise up again?
Oh,
or-
I'm sure it will. People just don't understand the costs of maintaining old buildings, and especially buildings that aren't used. We also have 3 old mill dams that there'll never be the money to replace them. The community loves having those dams and ponds there, but if there's no money to replace them and do the major maintenance, then, what do you do?
So you may have to do some marketing to let people know, do you want to take it out of your pocket? Because if you want it reserved, then you have to take it out of your pocket to do it.
That's right. That's what the board's gonna have to decide is how do we approach?
Because
Yeah,
I assume you're going to have resistance.
Yes, well, we've had resistance even to Falls Reserve leasing it out. People want to
Yep.
run the same way it's always been, but
It's hard for change sometimes.
that's correct.
Mary Lou and then Terry.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, just a quick question. Basically, though, the assessment to municipalities and any grants from the government are your only sources of revenue, is that correct?
User fees are about 1/3 of our budget.
But the user fees will be cut back as user fees for the campgrounds and,
That's true, yeah, we're gonna lose that revenue, but,
Your
that's
planning
separate.
user fees.
Yeah, planning and regulation user fees are,
Oh,
extension
okay.
user fees, like we charge for tree planting, and for maps and things like that, so we still generate some user fees. But the major sources of funding are the municipalities at about 1.1 million out of a $2.7 million budget. Our provincial grant has been frozen at $70,000 since 1998.
I commend you for your report and what you're going through. I guess the decision to keep the assessments at 55 to 58, we appreciate, but yet how in the long term can you make up that deficit?
That's the $64,000 question that the board and staff have to work on over the next 3 years. I'm hopeful that the province and feds will, through the events they're seeing, see the value in reinvesting, but I think it's probably more likely we'll see municipal financial reform before we see that, but, because you guys, municipalities work with 8 cents on the tax dollar.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a major reform in how municipalities are financed as well. And that's where AMO has said their priority is. They're saying if we get financed properly, then we can support conservation authorities better. That's the way they're looking at it. And that's, they're saying there's such a huge infrastructure deficit in this province that they'd rather see that dealt with first. That our infrastructure deficit and operating deficit is so low in comparison that if they get that addressed, then they can support the conservation authorities.
But if we somewhere, a miracle, find the money to fix all our infrastructure and have a flood, that infrastructure is gonna be gone
That's right.
pretty quickly.
That's
So
correct, yeah.
They kinda work hand in hand.
Yep. So that's why the Calgary flood and the Toronto flood have galvanized the federal government to start looking at this again. So they've announced a $240 million program over 5 years for the whole country, but they don't know what it's gonna encompass.
Right.
The floodplain mapping alone update was gonna be $360 million. Let alone providing grants for flood control structures. So, that program needs to be probably 10 times larger than what they've announced.
Okay.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bridge. I believe in the most recent provincial budget passed in July, that there was talk of some funding to improve or increase the floodplain mapping. I'm sure that I heard that. I didn't hear
Yeah,
a figure with it, but,
Well, the federal and the provincial government will go into negotiations on a joint program. But they'll probably then include the municipalities. It'll probably be one of those one-third, one-third, one-third programs. So,
and we are actually have budgeted some money to
We have
do that,
budgeted
so
some money, yeah.
we've already budgeted some. If we could get another 2/3 towards what we wanna do, that would be a big plus for
Yeah.
us, or get us started on the right foot. The other thing, quite a few of us were at the FCM conference here in May in Niagara Falls, and they spent a lot of their sessions on talking about flooding, and they didn't mention conservation authorities too much, which kind of was a surprise. I don't know, is Ontario the only place that has conservation
pretty much,
authorities as
yep.
such?
Yes.
But there was a lot of the program devoted to flooding and those types of climate change. So I think they realize the need is there. And I really think where the pressure is eventually going to come from is the insurance industry, because they can't keep paying these huge insurance bills for flooding. They're now talking about offering flooding insurance for residential. Well, there's going to be even more claims. So, and they have more money. I think they're the people that can put the pressure on our upper levels of government to get them moving on this, because they're the ones that are having to pay the big bills, and we in turn are paying the bill because we pay the increased insurance premiums every
Right.
year. But I think that's an area where there could be a fair amount of pressure brought to bear on the upper levels of government.
And I think they are, but they're also saying, we're not gonna provide flood insurance unless we know the risk. And to know the risk, we need to know, we
Where-
need to see
where it is.
up-to-date mapping and where the problem areas are. In the UK, they're even mapping the areas that flood that are outside of riverine areas. So just depressional areas that when we get a heavy rain,
They-
the areas that flood. We haven't even started to think about that.
That's right. No.
Just one last thing. I'd like to thank you for allowing Aaron Dolmage and Jeff King to be part of our Trees of Minto. It's not Trees for Farms of Minto anymore,
Right.
it's Trees of Minto. And you made the comment about you'd like to see us incorporate some rural stormwater management along with it. That's what got us started basically on the
Okay.
Trees for Minto program, was we wanted to do something.
Sure.
And we felt we believed that trees were a portion of that. We realize it's not the total solution, but it's a start, and hopefully that's the plan down the
Okay,
road, that we're
great.
going to try and incorporate that and do as much as we can to improve or reduce the possibility of flooding in Hairston especially.
And I guess just to wrap it up, I thank you very much, Phil and Steve. And as I say, your document was well laid out, and I think you're on the right direction. And where we can help is, and it'd be nice if the feds and the provinces, I have a little bit of a less optimistic view. I think that we're probably going to be on our own on this a little bit. And you know what? We've done all kinds of things with groups and shared responsibilities, and we can do something with volunteer base and all the other stuff. We've had to do it in Minto. We continue to have to do it in small towns, and maybe we work together in some of the projects Deputy Mayor Fiss has mentioned already. that we're already sort of going forward with, the trees. I think we saw a great turnout, 100-some people at our last. We're getting some people wanting to do the windbreaks. I think we have a capability of doing some kind of that, slowing down our thing, and I think the fact that we have put money in the budget and working with Steve and with Triton, I think we're gonna work away at that and come up with some a little bit better planning. And we appreciate everything I know we don't pay the lion's share, we're at the top end, but we try to contribute where we can, and certainly we'll be a solid partner going forward.
No,
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I think you're right. I don't see any solutions coming from the feds of the province in
We'll have to do it
3 to 5
ourselves.
years, 3 to 5 years maybe.
Yep.
But we appreciate your support and your contribution.
Thanks. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We've had some tough decisions. The board pretty good about it, Councillor? Board seems to be.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Where's Andy? Can't make it?
Oh, yeah. I'll give you an update on Andy. And we have one other delegation, but he's still in the planning stages, so Andy's working on some plans for us. And Mr. Tark won't be with us today, but he will be with us one of these days, and probably the next one. He thought he'd have his drawings done to the next one. And it's always interesting, we'll see what Andy has come up with. He's a very visionary person, so we'll wait to see what that's gonna be about. We don't have a clue, so. There's drawings in the works. Anyways. Public question period. Anybody got, no? The correspondence, have you got that?
Yeah, now, you can talk about 1 and 3, but we do want to talk about number 2, which if you've had a chance, the
Yes.
county is celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Green Legacy, and they're going to be providing a plaque, and they're suggesting that we might want to have a tree planting ceremony.
Perfect.
Think of an appropriate place, like whether by the driveway as we come in, the Larry Agled's monument, or another place if you think that you'd like
Somebody
to do for
suggested
that.
maybe something that match up on the other side of the sign. We've got one tree on one side and nothing on the other side, the possibility, or just as you come in, there's a sort of a tree nursery to the right, we've had some trees planted in there. But you'd want somewhere where the plaque would be fairly visible. That would be one option. You could have it sort of sitting there and you have the plaque pointing this way, so people coming into the council chamber would probably be able to see the plaque over and look at it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mhm.
I would suggest that, being as the quality of futuristic people we have on staff, that they would do a fine job of
Figuring it out.
finding a good location for that tree.
That's a good one. I certainly would like to probably invite them, Green Legacy, to come up and be part of the ceremony, because I think the more publicity we get for them, the better. It's a great program, so
I'm saying they will.
I'm sure they will come up. Usually Mark or somebody. All right?
So we have a motion if you'd like
Yep.
to agree about the tree.
Yep.
And, mover and a seconder.
Okay, we need a mover and seconder for the motion that to have a tree planted in the municipal office to celebrate the Green Legacy 10th anniversary. Moved by Councillor Faulkner, Deputy Mayor Fish, seconder, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Anything else on correspondence? Of the rest of correspondence, a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Turk, second by Councillor Follow, all in favor? Carried. Now we're into minutes.
Yeah, source protection.
Source protection minutes in front of us. Anybody have any concerns or? We have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Elliott. Councillor Turton, all in favor? Okay, carried. Building reports. Building reports, you wanna take that on there?
Sure. Our CBO is enjoying some vacation. I know he's been working really hard the last little bit, so.
Good job.
Yeah, June is down a bit from the previous year, but we've had a very good July. I guess one of the interesting things is we've got 2 large commercial permits, and those are for developments in the Palmerston Industrial Park, so it's always good to see, and, I know he's been very busy on the agricultural side too. He's had a lot of appointments. Picked up a bit, slow start for everybody.
Yeah, it looks like we're zooming right along. Any other concerns or questions? Mover and seconder. Councillor Faulkner, Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Carried. And turn to keep going on this, Gord, if you're.
I will talk about the lame duck, so
The lame duck.
there's no foul play involved.
I hit one up.
Yeah, isn't that up? So, as it stands now, the people that have put their names in for the election, this October, we are not going to have at least 75% claimed. So, the purpose of this, report is to allow combination of, Bill, the CAO, and myself on some other assets to, hire and fire senior staff and to buy and sell property in the interim, so that would be after September 12th until October 27th. So, at present, most of the real estate dealings we're aware of, we expect will be completed in September, but there's always a possibility someone will see our industrial land and make us an offer, and this allows us to transact business.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, so if something did come up, are we allowed to participate in the discussion?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just make the ultimate decision.
Well, and we could sign the papers.
Well, you
That
just
would-
sign the papers.
sign
We
the
s-
papers.
We still make the decisions.
I could see, like, the staff would make a report, and, we'd bring it to council, and it'd be up to you, like, I can't see a situation where council says don't sell it, and you go, yep, we're selling it, you know. It's more like a consensus, but you know how you do the bylaw for the mayor and the clerk to enter in an agreement? You're not able to do that in a lame duck status, so it
And
would be,
officially signed.
yeah.
Okay.
Long period, so, that's a long period of time.
Yeah,
Like, that's,
Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah, well, no, until your, council's sworn in, so after September 12th. And that could be late November, because the election's earlier this year.
Elections
But
are,
the new council does not fill.
No.
It's moved up now. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So,
Just concern.
sure. So if this is just a report, we would be bringing a bylaw forward on September 2nd to officially put this in. So, need a mover and a seconder
For that?
The report.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Fish, second by Councillor Turton, all in favor? Carried. Okay.
Okay, and this is one that I don't believe we've done, certainly not very often in this term of council. So we have our drainage superintendent, Mike McIsaac, getting his hat on there. Basically, once the people affected by the drain, if they have an issue with their assessment of that, they can appeal to what's called a court of revision. And we have to appoint members to that. We've got 2 drains. One is totally in Minto, and one is partly in North Perth. So what we'd like are 2 members to serve on both of the courts, and then an additional member to handle the town of Minto one. Drain 115 will have 1 member appointed by North Perth. And we have to have a chair for each of these courts. And is there anything?
Looking for volunteers.
Volunteer.
Okay.
Ron? I can go on one of them if you want. I guess we need 2 for the one, and then we need 3 for the other one.
Right.
So we need,
Same, for the same people.
same people.
Yeah, same people. So,
Ron?
Okay, so that would be enough. So Councillor Elliott and Mayor Bridge, you want to serve on both of them, and Councillor Faulkner,
Doesn't
just
matter,
the
if
one,
you want to do
or-
both, and I'll just
or
do one.
whatever you
doesn't matter.
like. Easy?
I'm easy.
Fine.
I can do standby.
All right.
I can do standby.
Dave is a standby, all right,
Okay.
okay.
Because the dates, one is the 5th, and we don't know when the next one is, Mike. So that might.
The 5th of
Maybe, should we name a standby just in case, because we don't know when the next date is?
Wouldn't hurt, wouldn't hurt.
Wouldn't hurt, so if Dave wants to be standby, then, because
I'll do
if
that.
it comes up to a date that one of us can't be there. I think the 5th was all right for me, but other than,
Okay. So perhaps we should go with Councillor Elliott and Councillor Faulkner for both, and you
Yep.
on the third?
right.
Okay. Need a mover and a seconder?
Deputy Mayor Fisk, Councilor Falvo, all in favor? Okay.
The next one is, on, Mill Street in Palmerston, John and Shirley Dick, and that was the one that I know we had some comments from our planner, and, basically, Bill's brought forward a report, endorsing the change. He's asking the county to consider the residential transition designation as well, just kind of looking at the, properties that surround it.
Councilor Falvo.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, just to be clear, that's for the total package to be residential. That's not specific.
Just lots 31 and 44.
Yeah, and I thought from our initial discussion that was something that we would recommend, so to speak. I thought we were being cautious about the article.
It's just part.
If I'm,
Councilor
am I
Falvo.
correct in saying there's already a commercial operation on one of the lots
Right.
currently?
Yeah.
So I think wasn't the idea that these were residential, they were going to apply for them residential, and then down the line.
I think you're right, it was down the road, we thought that they may, if they want to do it, they would apply it again
Right.
for it.
Right. If you want
But
to
there
change.
currently is an auto
The
repair.
auto repair across the.
Oh, it's right on the
Small
Right on
one
that?
there?
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
And across the road is more industrial.
and my other assumption I'll make is that John and Shirley weren't around, the representative was here, I believe, and they didn't know about us saying this, so this is what they've come back, I believe, this is what, and, were you speaking to this? No, I was speaking to the. Okay, yeah, so they basically,
I think you better.
oh, we thought they'd throw you in there. It's exciting, eh? That's what happens when you get to come to these things.
See, I told you we'd get you.
But am I right in the fact that they came back then and probably just wanted to do this, because we said it threw that out to them, but they didn't know we were changing the kind of the scope of the thing when they weren't here.
Right, yeah.
They had no
were
idea,
on
no idea. So
vacation.
this, I'm assuming they came back with, this is what they want us to go with.
Yeah, and this is, we're certainly not throwing a roadblock.
Yeah, that was the original, I think, yeah, we threw that out and said, if you wanna do it more, let us know, obviously you haven't wanted to do more, so, all right?
But just to comment on the, second last sentence of the second last paragraph on page 1, it says the loss of lots 31 and 44 in this inventory would likely have much impact. I'm assuming it should say much, would not likely have much impact?
That's
Is
right,
it-
yeah.
Uh,
Probably should put not in there.
Not yet, because it definitely was what
Would
they were
not
talking
have
about.
Not likely.
Okay,
Okay, now we have a specific resolution
Okay.
for this
you wanna
one.
read that or you want me to?
Sure, I can read. Okay, so the resolution to consider is that the County of Wellington be advised the Council of the Town of Minto has no objection to the application by John and Shirley Dick, 385 Mill Street, Palmerston, for an official plan amendment to allow residential use of lots 31 and 44 only, and that the county consider whether a residential transition designation should apply on the parcel, keeping in mind the existing uses and the nearby industrial commercial. I'll move and
Do we have a second for that? Councillor Elliott? Seconder? Deputy Mayor Fisk, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Now we have the gloom pit.
So, again, this goes back to 2011. And I think at that time there were some concerns about the environmental and that. And we do have a planner. yes.
Planner's here,
Could
so
speak
bring him on up
this.
and say your name. And
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. I'm new, I'm Jameson, I haven't been here before, so nice to meet you all. Yes, so I'm here for Mark Van Powder, so this is his file. I'm gonna do my best to try to answer any questions you have, but I'll let you know my knowledge might be limited, so I'll do my best though. So, as you're aware, there was an official plan amendment that to bring in the lands to be extracted into the mineral aggregate area. This amendment also dealt with refining some of those more natural environment features. The county had some concerns with the significant woodlands that were present on that property, and that was kind of the reasoning behind for the rezoning taking a little while. So Mark advised me that all issues have been addressed, and that the ecologists that we had retained provided recommendations on the rehabilitation plan, and those recommendations have been detailed and accepted by the applicant and are detailed into the rehabilitation plan and the notes. With regards to the rezoning, it should be fairly straightforward. The agricultural area is to be rezoned to extractive industrial, and those hatched areas you'll see on Schedule A of the proposed zoning bylaw are to remain natural environment. And the area of extraction is the thick, dark line. So that's the lands that were covered in the official plan amendment, and this subsequent rezoning will be applied to. So.
any questions?
For every tree they take out, they're planting trees elsewhere
Right.
to bring that back. That's
So
the plan, right?
it's my understanding that that they'll not only bring it back to what it was, but make it much better than it was previously.
That's what my thoughts were from
Yeah.
what they brought forward too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Fisk.
So has there been an area that has been rehabilitated after having a gravel pit to the extent of this one, or what they're required to do? My concern is we're maybe talking 20 or 30 years down the road, and that it just won't happen. Who enforces it, and who determines if it's satisfactory or unsatisfactory, and how is that, all those questions, how are they handled?
So those, this rehabilitation is going to be detailed on the site plan, which needs to be approved by the MNR, and that MNR, the MNR needs to approve that rehabilitation once it's done. So if there's anything vastly different from what has been agreed upon in the rehabilitation plan and the notes, they'll have to bring that area or the area up to what was agreed upon in initially and is stated in the rehabilitation notes on the site plan.
I just have a concern because I know with government cutbacks, M&R is one of the major ministries that is cut back, and it's very difficult to get any response from them now. And I have a concern that this will fall through the cracks and it won't happen.
Right.
I hope I'm wrong.
And as far as I'm aware, is that they have to, the MNR will review it and ensure that it's brought up to the appropriate standards as agreed upon in the site plan.
Okay, thank you.
And under the gravel extraction thing, they have to provide so much funding that goes into a trust fund for this type of thing, do they not? For every,
I'm sorry, I'm not
yeah,
sure about
well,
that.
I think for every royalties. But I know where Deputy Mayor Fisk is coming from, like, who's gonna be there to enforce it at the end
Right.
of the day?
Right.
But hopefully, well, the government will have the money, it'll be sitting there. It's in a trust fund, I know that from my banking days, that it has to be put away, and it's there for rehabilitation, whether, you know, they follow through on the actual plan. Money's supposed to be there.
I think we have to have some trust in the company that we're dealing with too, that they would follow through with our environmental concerns, and I was talking to someone that was involved in this, and they assured me that the trees they are putting in are better than the trees that are taken up, so.
And I'll just note that the M&R and the Conservation Authority had no concerns, and that this concern was of the further concern of the county. So, this is an issue that the county's raised and ensuring is, you know, adequately addressed. So it's kind of going beyond what was maybe necessary.
And that's what I was told.
Right.
Yeah. And I believe that's right. I mean, the County of Wellington actually has a tougher standard.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Curtin, second by Councilor Elliott, all in favor? Opposed, none, okay. And now it's the ZBA. ZBA, is it Z or Z?
Oh, Zed in Canada. Zoning bylaw amendment, I'd ask.
Yeah, we found out what that was.
Yeah. So this is a property that is just in Wellington North, the other side of County Road 6. And we're basically recommending in support of that, but we have a concern about the storage of outside materials. And we're recommending that any outside material, raw materials and products be prohibited.
Can I just ask a question? Why are we
Yeah.
getting?
I think it's the notice area.
This area, we're like,
neighbor.
we're like
How many
a,
meters?
So the outside concern that we have of outside things
Is our residents,
would be
yeah.
our residents looking at that outside.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And the bylaw will be a Wellington North bylaw.
we've had these in the past, we've had a couple from West Gray, they've notified us to talk.
Okay, I don't.
But
I don't
in
read
some
it,
cases,
maybe
we haven't had any
done
need,
it by accident.
not to this extent though, no, you're right, not to this extent. But,
Yeah.
that's nice, yeah.
And it's one, I'm gonna read out a
Okay.
resolution for this one too. The council of the town of Minto has no objections to the proposed rezoning, subject to outside storage for the home industry being prohibited, so that all raw materials and finished product be kept in enclosed buildings, and that the proposed structure be located east of the existing home in the area of the barn and other farm service buildings.
Yeah, no, before I move to,
Sure.
just ask one question. Was that our recommendation, or did that come that someone had already recommended this and we're supporting it?
I believe that's our recommendation in response to concerns of our citizens. I gather it's a bit of an issue already, and
All right,
but
then
to
I
get
will, I
worse.
will move it then.
Okay?
Hey, Councilor Caldwell? Curtin, all in favor? Yeah, I think that's why we're sort of involved as well.
Now we're into the finance committee.
Oh, I'll just turn it over to Councilor Caldwell to assume the chair. Are you gonna go down to the front, or are you gonna stay
Yeah,
right
I
here?
get it around here. Yeah.
You can put, now we'll have,
Yeah.
you know, it's up to you, just tell him he's gotta
I
change his
think
hat.
it's fine there, if
All
you're
right, yes, I'm fine.
Um,
Otherwise I'll have to.
Finance Committee has 3 items on the agenda today. Treasurer and tax collector minutes, the settlement, the approval of accounts, and the tender for the municipal office cleaning. And I'll turn it over to Treasurer Duff.
Okay, thank you, Chair Caldwell. Here we are. All right, so the minutes of settlement, got a lot of detail here, but I kind of looked at them. They're basically 3 different types this time. So there's people that have appealed their taxes and won an appeal. There's, I call it the FTRT, where property often changes hands and it's a farm property and it takes time for it to get through them after redesignated, it flips to residential, and this is it coming back to residential and farm with the split. And there's also obsolete commercial buildings, and some of those are a type that maybe are 30, 40 years old, and I guess they've appealed, and MPAC has come out and said, yes, it's not worth what it was 30, 40 years ago. And they've done a reduction due to obsolescence. So basically, those three.
Would anyone have any questions? Yes, Councilor Holtman.
Chair Colwell, this is just information only, because we have
Well,
no way of knowing what that is or discuss it logically, because, we don't know where this property is.
no, but it's, I have looked those up because I was curious
Yeah,
about
that's
them,
the
yeah.
first thing that
And I
struck me
go,
when I saw them.
oh, yeah, I could see that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's, maybe,
Just
as
for
I
me to
say,
vote on something that-
yeah. And of course, I'm trusting that the impact assessors know, oh, yes, well, that's obsolete, but it certainly is, it's not like a new building or that, those little ones.
Further, just on that question, we do not have any say, do we, as to what tax
Well,
rate?
we could say, no, we're not gonna sign it, but not really, it's more for information for that, because they've already talked with the assessment corporation.
Councilor Holtman.
Gordon, since we're talking less money coming in, how does that affect your revenue and your budgeting and such like?
Well, we always do a provision for tax write-offs, I think the last one was probably 40,000, so this is part of our tax write-offs.
So we
This-
expected some
We always,
way
and,
to-
and we hope it'll be offset by new assessment, like our building permits
Right.
and things like that.
All right, thanks.
Deputy
Yeah, through you, Chairman Caldwell, are we allowed to ask what's going on with this particular property that's continually going up in assessment, and every year there's, I don't know, is there a hearing every year or an appeal every year?
A lot of the larger ones, they have a habit, or they'll take an agent or something, they'll automatically appeal. Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, we shouldn't have any of those issues, because the assessment would be proper, and the assessment would be confirmed or deemed appropriate. But obviously, the assessment, the initial assessment is being set at this level, the fellow appeals, and whether it's the review board or request for reconsideration agrees, yes, it should be lowered, but,
Well, in 3 of the 5 situations, it was increased.
yeah. Well, sometimes it's just, switching between one class to another too. They may
So
appeal.
there's no activity on this property, it's just being assessed every year at a higher value, and the individual is appealing it. Is that basically what's happening?
Yeah, or you could have another way, you could have an increase to a building, say you have an addition, you appeal what the assessment corporation
addition.
has, yeah, like say, well, I didn't add 100,000, I only added 60,000 to that project. And then you get one for each year too, so.
Is there any other questions? Then the recommendation is that the council of the town of Minto receives the July 18th, 2014 report from the treasurer and tax collector regarding minutes of settlement and assessment adjustments, and that the assessment adjustments be approved. May I have someone make that motion? Mayor Bridge, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fisk. All in favor? And the motion is passed. And now, Gordon, if I could ask you to review the accounts?
Sure, we have a total of 438,000 this time. Yeah, we actually, well, we got 7 new computers, so our IT firm has gradually been putting them in as it doesn't have a crisis somewhere else. So I think our objective is to bring all the operating systems to a consistent, like, Windows 7 and better compatibility, so we've got that. We've paid off a lot of refunds for grading and entrance permits, so these are people that met their requirements, and about $10,000 there. We issued a facade grant for Miller Insurance for $3,000 on that one. We put a $50,000 20% deposit for the pumper tanker that we approved earlier. And we got some street sweeping, $19,000 worth of that. And another, about $39,000 on our sewer I&I project. And recreation now has been busy getting the washrooms put up, and I know there's a lot more to come on that too, so the highlights?
May I just ask, is the water, is any of that the meters, the start of the meters?
Not very much, no. The water is basically, the water mains I expect in the next one there'll be a lot, but we haven't had too many bills because they've just been out installing last week, I guess, the first ones. So, yeah. Now, again, for financing that one, we're gonna use that construction financing, so as we get the bills, we're gonna go on that line of credit.
Through you, Chairman Caldwell, you mentioned, the street sweeping was 19,000.
That's right.
We didn't budget that much for that, did we?
No, I think we did, yeah. I forget what the figure was on that.
I think for some reason
You guys will
11,000
know.
sticks in my mind from last year.
Is that all of it? Okay.
Any other questions? No? Then the recommendation is the council of the town of Minto receives the treasurer's report dated July 24th regarding approval of accounts and approves the town of Minto accounts by department for July 2013. Council Faulkner, seconded by Councilor Turton. All in favor? The motion is passed. Thank you. And finally, I would ask the treasurer to talk about our tender for cleaning.
Okay, so that's for cleaning this office and general. I don't believe there'd been a proper tender for probably at least about 7 or 8 years, so we figured it was time. We got 3 bids, they were all very close, and we're recommending we go with the low bid.
And are any of these 3 bids our current cleaners?
Yes, the first one for sure.
It's for 3 years, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Tender will be for 3 years. Are there any questions? Yes, Councilor Hart.
If we have any problems with the cleaning or whatsoever, we could, if we got it out, or,
Yeah, we can terminate, and I think we're gonna be, a lot more vocal too. The tender's very detailed, so we can easily tell if they're meeting the
Okay,
requirements
so you
each
have-
time.
they know exactly what they're cleaning and how,
Exactly,
how
and
many
how
hours you're gonna put in,
often.
and, okay,
Yes, the expectations are, yeah.
certainly, okay.
Councilor Turton.
Chairman Caldwell, this is for our treasurer as well. What did we pay this year?
We paid about 87, yeah, I've got it in the bottom there. So it's right in there. All right. I knew you were gonna ask that.
Sorry.
Not quite 87.
Pardon me? I apologize, Councilor Caldwell, or Chair Caldwell, I read right over that.
That happened.
Yeah. And I really don't appreciate the heckling. Gonna be something that we're gonna start?
I think there's,
Okay, the recommendation is the council receive the July 30th report from the treasurer regarding municipal office cleaning tenders and approves the hiring of Stephen Hale at the cost of $8,590 annually. And someone move that motion. Councilor Faulkner, and seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor? And the motion is passed, and I turn the chair back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Councilor Turton. He can keep the heckling down. He wants to control
Don't
the
get that
world here.
opportunity a
He's
lot.
he's total control now.
Thank
Take
you
it
very
over,
much.
Councilor Turton.
Mayor Bridge, I believe that we've got, we have 6 or 7 items. I think we have 6.
We got
and-
6, yeah.
And we have one that was on your bench today, or on the desk here, number 15. That was a bit of an addition. So, got quite a list, but I think they're all fairly simple. So we might as well go ahead and start with the very first one, with the Murray Ramsire.
Okay, this is, the property located, on the former rail lane, west of the former rail lines, owned by the town. There's an attached map there. If you have a look at it, you can find your location. There was a few options, to access this property. It has no access now. The first one was considered, a parcel that was on an open portion of the road allowance, or the road at the 15th line. And there was a problem with that, with the grade and the sight lines, and we had to look at it. It was pretty impossible to do. So the second one, we took off the rail line, the old rail line on the 15th. And the concern at this location was a conflict with the vehicles and the people walking and accessing the trail there. So that would have an issue too. So the last option we're looking at is open road allowance on Underway Road. On July 28th, Underwood submitted a request to purchase a road allowance. And on the 30th, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have my glasses on here, so I'm having a problem reading this. They submitted a permission to construct a private driveway on open road allowance. So we're looking at getting these people together, and I think CEO White wants to put this off until such time that we can all get together and see if we can resolve the issue.
So I'll entertain a motion that we defer this.
I would make that motion that we defer it.
Seconder. Counselor Faulkner, do we want to have some discussion?
I'd like to ask a question if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chairman Turton, on your map there's a yellow dotted line. What does that,
That's
is
the
that?
unopened road allowance.
and that's where they want to have a culvert, or they want to have a laneway then?
They want to open up that section, yeah, to
So-
access.
So the yellow line right now, is there a road or a laneway there? There's nothing there.
No, it's actually being worked by
It's part of a field then,
Lauren
is it?
Underwood's family, yeah, his parents.
So if we, I guess, maybe we're jumping ahead here, but who's gonna build this then? If has to be
It will
built?
be up to him to.
Ramsmeyer.
Yeah, that's correct.
And he understands that?
Yes, he does. Yeah. If you look at the end of the 15th, you'll see where there's that bend in the road there.
Yeah.
And as soon as you hit that bend, there's a big drop off on it. And even putting a driveway entrance at that location is not a
No.
safe thing to do, so. And then using the old railway line, that's not very safe either.
Counselor Faulkner.
Yeah, so, for you, Council Chair Turton, this, Ramsmeyer, I believe it is,
Yes.
where, is that his farm, just off the corner of the 15th, where it's his option one there?
Yes, it is.
This, and
It's
there's
not
quite
very
a
clear.
tree.
It's not very clear.
Section, yes, it is.
Ramsmeyer out
So,
there.
so
Property.
he is wanting access to his property, which is being denied.
That's correct. There's no entrance whatsoever to that property, so
Okay, so where would the laneway start?
right at the end of Underway Road, right at the end where Lauren Underwood's parents live. It goes there, and there's like a small
So he's just
cul,
gonna continue the road allowance, but it'd be a laneway,
correct.
and then he would make a left turn into his farm.
Yeah, basically, it's Underway Road is, like I said, an unopened road allowance, but right at the present, it's a laneway to the Lauren Underwood's parents' place right up. And it's being used as a private lane. So all we're gonna do is extend,
Responsibility in the, maintenance of that.
we plow that right to their place and turn around there. Yeah,
That leads me to my next question. Is that going to increase our,
maintenance?
responsibilities to, continue plowing that to?
No, he'd have to maintain that section of, it'd be a laneway. When that first dotted yellow line starts there, it would be it would be used as a laneway. He'd have to maintain that, so that's right, gated, yeah. Yep.
Any other questions? All right, so we've had a mover and a seconder to defer this by Counselor Elliott and Counselor Faulkner. One more question?
Well,
And
it's
that's basically the, are you gonna,
Sorry.
go ahead.
well, no, I'm probably not gonna talk about the same thing. It's, in the report, it's reported as concession C, and then when you go to the, Saugeen Conservation Authority, it's concession D, and I do believe it is concession D,
Okay,
so that probably should be corrected somewhere along the way.
okay.
I was just gonna say that the motion basically is to instruct staff to
talk
meet with them.
To meet with them, okay.
I left it recommendation.
Pardon me?
I was gonna let you read that part of it, so.
Okay. Pardon me? Then the recommendation that the council of town of Minto receives the CAO clerk's report dated July 31st, 2014 regarding Murray Ramseyer's request to access Underway Road Part Lot 63 and 64 concession C. We want to change that to E. And the Public Works Department meet with Mr. Ramseyer and representatives of the Underwood and Shouse family before making a final report and recommendation to council. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. I'm in favor.
No heckling.
Second item is the our road and drainage superintendent, talk about the Clifford Cemetery GPR survey. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. There was two bids received to do a ground penetrating radar research on the Clifford Cemetery. Basically in the older section of the cemetery, which includes 403 plots in that area. Council has budgeted funds to complete the survey of the cemetery to compare the interments with the town records, so there's more accurate mapping. An accurate survey below ground requires a form of ground penetrating radar, GPR. This work is specialized, but two bids were obtained for this work. The first one came from Concrete Scanning and Imaging at $18,135, and the second one was received from Global GPR Services at $16,250. The town has not contracted for this type of work before. At this point, staff would work with the contractor to survey only the key areas in the cemetery. There's approximately 40 interments, which are expected within the older section of the cemetery that staff's aware of. Staff is hopeful that this will improve record keeping so that potential problem areas can be identified. The budget for this project was set for $20,000 this year. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Mike? Deputy Mayor Fisk?
Through you, Chairman Turton, do you know how this process works, or what it detects, or Lord knows?
I was gonna say, this is kind of an offbeat one. If any of you watched that TV Ontario program called Time Team, they actually, I was looking at, they have a video, it's an archaeological one, and they have like a 4-minute video that explains how this GPR works. And it's same way, and it's basically something that they drag behind and like radar into the ground. Now this one wouldn't be a real expensive one, but you can go down like 2 meters or something on the more powerful ones. I don't think this one would, but it's a really interesting process.
And from what I understand from them as well, like, you won't be able to see exactly what's in the ground, but they'll be able to see where the earth has been disturbed for, like, where a plot would have been dug up for an interment in the past.
Because the one company, its name is Concrete Scanning, and I wouldn't expect to be any concrete in these graves that we're going to be scanning, because they belong before there were concrete vaults.
That's correct. And I had actually met with that company on site. They haven't done this exact work before, but they have the capabilities of doing that work. And that's where I found out about they can't actually see what's in the ground, but they can see where the area has been disturbed.
And the other thing is the quotes. The concrete scanning quote is plus GST, and the global GPR includes the GST, so that makes it an even better deal as far as the total cost.
Yeah.
No, I think I don't know, it says included, the map report.
The report
But I think they still have HST on the actual estimate. According to our treasurer.
A lump sum amount for the CSI.
It's a bit confusing, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I looked at that first too, and I thought, well, that's interesting.
So part of it includes HSD and.
Just the map.
It's included in.
Well, I'd get that clarified. Tell them if they include GST, we'll hire them.
Or HST.
HSD, yes, sorry.
Counselor Faulkner?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Turton, I have two. Is 18 inches deep enough? Like I can, because don't we put, coffins a lot deeper than 18 below the ground?
Yeah, that's correct, but, they'll see the soil disturbance there. They could actually,
Oh,
as they're
okay,
going
okay,
across, they'll be
yeah.
able to see this
And you think
disturbance there.
that would indicate enough?
Yeah.
And the second, part is number 2 on the standard terms and conditions. The cost for, to repair or replace field equipment and instrumentation damaged or contaminated as a result of site-specific hazard charged to the client. How do we know whether they're operator error or geographical or demographics caused? Just, I guess, are we gonna be working with the, I heard you mention
Yeah.
we're gonna be working with them?
Yeah,
There'll be somebody, yeah.
Yes.
There'll be somebody on site.
yeah.
You're satisfied with that, like?
Counselor Elliott? Did your questions get answered?
I didn't have a question.
I'm sorry, I thought, Mayor Bridge.
I think the technology is very interesting, but I think the fact that this will really help the staff. It's really a tough situation when we have burials and we haven't got a good map out there. So I think we really need to get this done. I give council a lot of credit that they decided that they spend the money and get it done. Because we don't wanna go through what we had to do, Mike, a couple times. And be there with family members and not knowing whether they can be beside their family members. It's very, very disturbing, and
Yes.
so I think it should work and get us into the proper procedure going forward. Thanks.
When are we starting, Mike?
I'd have to double check with the availability of this company.
Or
Global
does it say
GPR.
in here somewhere?
Second guessing yourself. He heckled
So-
himself. He could do that.
The recommendation is the council of the town of Minto receives the CAO's, the wrong one, pardon me. Council of the town of Minto receives the road and drainage superintendent and CAO clerk's report dated July 28, 2014 regarding the survey of the Clifford Cemetery grounds, and that the ground penetrating radar survey work be awarded to GPR Services at a cost not to exceed $16,250 plus HST. Are you moving that, Councillor Caldwell? Can we have a seconder? Mayor Bridge? All in favor of that motion? Carried. Thank you. So number 3 then on this agenda is to do with the water and sewer on Low Street in Palmerston.
Okay, this is, the Murphy family owns a 132 by 132 foot property on the corner of Low and Walker Street in Palmerston. They have conditional approval from Wellington County for a severance to create 2 lots fronting on Walker Street. Triton Engineering was commissioned to prepare preliminary drawings to extend water and sewer to the subject lands in the most cost-efficient way. The attached drawing shows that water and sewer can be extended roughly 65 meters south along Low to Walker and an additional 40 meters easterly to the applicant's lots. Another 58 meters of water main is required to loop the system to Queen Street. The town will benefit in the future from this project with improved pressure to the system due to water main looping. And some financial considerations. The budget for this project is $135,000 split between water and sewer. And it's proposed that 58 meters of water main on Walker to loop to Queen Street should be exclusively a town cost, which is about $28,000, $29,000. This reduces Walker's share to about $49,400, which includes 2 serviced, laterals. The Murphys have advised this cost is too high, and, I went down and negotiated, with them on it, and, I'll let,
Sure.
board finish that on the financial part.
We've sawed off at $45,000, including HST, and that amount was paid this past Friday, so I'm on board.
Questions for, go ahead.
I noticed that, through you, Chair, that Freeland's property is not hooked to the sewer and water. Is that correct, or
Not to my knowledge, they haven't been, no.
they haven't been? So,
That's-
will they have to now, or can they say no, they don't wanna hook up?
That just depends on what type of agreement was beforehand. So I'm not,
Because most
I'm
times
not-
when sewers are put in place, people have to join into the municipality. So at what cost would that be? Would it be a cost to Freelands to run that sewer?
well, if I'm not mistaken, on, is it Queen Street that he
Queen, yeah.
faces?
Yeah.
I think has access to the sewer there already.
Can be connected.
I'll have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure.
And he's never been part of our sewer and water system?
As far as I know, no.
Wow.
I don't know if there was an agreement prior to or what the situation is there, so.
And is there a lot of houses within the community that are?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, because I just thought it was a must-be.
Yeah.
If you lived within your community and you were close to a sewer and water, that you have to look up.
When Wayne gets back, and we'll go through some files before he returns, that's my job while Bill's away to investigate a little bit further on
And
it.
find out what's happening.
Yeah.
Is there more than
To
his
make
hou-
sure there's no
is that the-
agreements of some sort.
Is
or
that the
whatever
only
case.
house that isn't?
To my knowledge, yes. I don't know of any more have been brought forward to me anyway, so I don't know.
So will that change the cost of,
If he has to connect to it, yes.
okay,
Yep, he has his share in there too to pay.
all right, so if we
If I'm
pass
not
it, if we
mistaken-
pass this today without knowledge of whether they're involved, then it's not the true dollars and cents then, am I correct?
No, it's already split, portion-wise per lot that are
Okay.
already there, existing. So
That
that's already
doesn't-
split up.
That doesn't change if
No.
the Freelands come on board?
No,
It would,
So, can I just read this?
yeah.
It says the property across the road from the road, and the Freeland in brackets, which are the 2 lots behind Stan's residence.
Oh, it's not his house?
Well, not according to this, okay, so let me read it.
Okay, sure.
You read it.
Yep. No, go ahead.
So it looks to me, help me out here, but this says the property across the road, which is Freeland, it's across from the 2 lots of Murphy's properties, those 2 lots are not connected to
Right.
municipal services and would have potential for 2 additional lots that might be created if there's a home built on them. Is that?
So it sounds like they're 2 unserviced lots.
Yeah,
And
The way I read that.
And same
is it not
thing
the
with
responsibility to do you not have to have connections into unserviced lots? I don't know.
Neither, well, the Murphys haven't, that's why this is kind of being put forth.
until you're actually gonna build on them.
Can't get a building permit without it though.
Yeah.
And then the corner of Walker and Low, which is the rock property, would also benefit from this servicing.
My thoughts are,
Put it this way, his,
once you dig up, you have to dig up again if 3
No.
years down the road that they want to connect.
no, services will be run up to the properties, the
Oh.
existing properties that are existing now.
At no cost to them.
That's right.
Okay.
But when they connect to it, they have to pay
That
for
would be
their portion.
cost.
And that-
Yeah.
That comes out of our
Yep.
share, right?
Okay, so there's no putting down and
That's
carrying up
correct.
and- Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But as to whether or not he's connected
It's
on his existing house to, we don't know for
still
sure.
questionable too.
From what we know, he is not. So that's why I'm doing this investigated, to find out what's going on with that.
Sort of,
Okay, no,
yeah,
that's fine.
yep, thanks.
Through you, Chairman Turton, we've made a deal now with the Murphys, so will we be making a deal for these 2 lots when and if the time comes to service them?
Yes, there'll be like deferred benefit? We've done that sometimes.
No, but I'm saying, are they gonna get the 45,000 for the 2 lots?
Oh, I don't know what the price would be, because.
Yeah, it's all divided up for how many lots there is.
No, I understand that, but it's 30, 30, 30, I think is the division. So Murphy's is 30%, and they're paying 45,000 for the 30%.
That's correct.
So these 2 lots of Freelands or behind Freelands, if they decide that they want those lots serviced, is it going to be 45,000 for them as well? That's my question. Are
I
we
think the
treating?
2 lots on Freelands, if I'm not mistaken, is, it can be either severed that way or it is severed, that his house is on one and there's an empty lot behind him. I don't think there's 3 lots on that property.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's just 2 lots. One's his house that sits on it, and the other one's
Right.
basically his rear yard that faces on to Low Street. Is it Low?
One Walker.
Walker.
Going Walker, yeah.
Which one runs to
Should have
the shop? To the shed. Okay, so Low Street.
So the Murphy's lots are on Low Street.
Walker.
Walker.
On Walker?
Corner of Walker and Lower.
Okay.
So, if I may again?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to put this, so we made a deal with Murphy's, and they have to pay a share of getting those sewer and water down to the property so they become available to them. And yet, the person on the other side of the road doesn't. So
Not
you
at
gotta-
this point, not until they build on that lot or want to build on that lot, connect to that system.
At that time,
They pay
how's that
for it.
break down? That's what I think that's what your question is, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that's Deputy Mayor and my concern, like, it breaks down because we're spending $200,000 or whatever it was, or whatever the cost is to build it, and we break down the 49,000 for them to put it in. And then 4 years from now, this property becomes available to be severed and connected.
Then they'll pay on top of
They'll-
what this is now. If this is for existing lots,
Okay,
the way it's laid out now, okay, on the existing lots that are there, okay, there's a potential that, say, Freeland's lot, if it's 2 lots there, and he has, one's on his, house is on one lot and the other one isn't, there'll be a service run up to that lot, right? And on the other corner, the Rock property, there's a potential that if he severs his, then that will be on top of this amount here. So it becomes an extra lot.
they
And then he
pay
can
at the
connect-
time of severance, at a
That's-
time of need,
That's right.
and they would pay the right percentage.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Any more questions? So, the recommendation is that the council of the town of Minto receives the CAO clerk's report dated July 25th, 2014 regarding the sanitary sewer and the water installation at Low Street, Palmerston, and approves staff proceeding to complete the work with the assistance of Triton Engineering, with the Murphy's contribution being 30% of the final cost, including engineering and HST. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Mayor Fisk, Mayor Briggs, Deputy Mayor Fisk, all in favor of that? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Moving right along to number 13, tender for miscellaneous asphalt.
Thanks. 2 tenders for miscellaneous asphalt on various streets in 3 towns were received. The Murray Group Limited at a tender price of $128,528.77. And the second price from Steeden Evans Limited at $145,612.26. $280,000 was set aside for the budget to complete this task this year. Is there any questions?
Deputy Mayor Fisk.
Through you, Chairman Curtin. Is the cost of asphalt still dropping, or what, like, this is less than half what we tendered for?
Well, This one's kinda different. The price of asphalt staying where it has been,
What is that?
it's been in around 70, I'm gonna say anywhere from, like, last year when we did the Ayton Road, it was $61 per ton. And then this year for these projects here ranged anywhere from $89 to $132 per ton, depending on the project. It's all based on size. These are all block replacements, which are smaller projects. Where the Ayton Road is 3.2 kilometers long, they can reduce their price of asphalt to that extreme because they make up for it in volume that way.
But they're still, like I said, it's less than half the price, so I mean, that's good for us,
That
but
is-
why is that? I mean, when we budgeted, what did we budget for per ton cost?
We based our budget on prices from an engineering firm, and I'm not 100% sure what all was included in that. It could have been like a double lift or a single lift. This is all based on just a single 60 mil lift of asphalt, which is all we require. So we've never actually done a tender like this one before either, doing block replacements in the towns. So this was kind of almost like a feeler to see how the results were gonna come back in for a project like this. Usually when we do block replacements in town, there's more work that's involved, like your water sewer, storm, curb gutter, sidewalks. These are just asphalt replacement. There's no other structural work that needs to be done. So that's how we were hoping to get this amount of work done, but we were unsure as to the actual prices that they were gonna come back at for this year.
And, for the larger projects, it seems to be the asphalt's going around $77 per mark per ton. That's what this year's rate's going at, so for big projects.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
If you remember in 2013, I think we're doing something similar, that we kind of cut back on some of the road maintenance to make up for the overage on the winter control. And we already know that the first 4 months of the year were pretty bad, so I think it'll be good if we're a little under on this and give us a bit of room for next November and December.
Any other questions? Hearing
There's-
none?
When we first did this too, we looked at more streets, but we wanted to make sure the infrastructure underneath was good. We found that there's a lot of 4-inch water mains in Harrison, and we don't wanna be paving over that until we upgrade that.
So,
That
Go ahead, Mayor Britt.
this is part of what we talked about, and I think it's a great program, is the fact that we're trying to match up now with our infrastructure underground with our paving. And so what you just said there makes sense, Brian, where we thought we had maybe more on the list, but we want to make sure that we're not just putting asphalt down, having to rip up for, and are we going to be getting that? I know when you were talking about that report, I know that the council's seen the big report, which was the roads and the bridges. But we were going to incorporate, I believe, the report that also includes the infrastructure underground. So when we were looking at possible next year or whatever the council is in the future, that we'll be able to say, here's a budgetary item, we're not just doing asphalt, we're doing asphalt plus.
That's right.
So here's how much we can do, and that's
road
part of that $40
reconstruction.
million infrastructure budget, okay.
And this list, actually, when we started out, it was long,
Right.
and when we looked at everything, it just went down to what we thought would be.
But these items here, I assume, have no infrastructure underneath that we have to
No.
do any replacements on, so
No,
that's why we're
that's-
getting this done now. So,
Just
that's why
research.
maybe the budget is a lot different, but it makes a lot of sense. And I agree with, I guess they call him treasurer when he's talking with money, the fact
lots
that,
of
let's hope that we can hold a bit of money back, because November, December, hopefully we don't get snow, but if we have the money, maybe that'll help us.
Any other questions? Can I have a mover and a seconder for this motion? Maybe I should read the recommendation first. Council receives the July 29th, 2014 report from the road foreman regarding tender 2014-08 miscellaneous asphalt, and approves the hiring of the Murray Group Limited to the tender price of $128,528.77, excluding HST. Councillor Caldwell. Deputy Mayor Fisk. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Okay. So now we're moving along to number 5, which is the tender on the single and double surface treatment. Go ahead, Mike. Oh, sorry.
I'll do this one. Okay, this tender is for, like you said, the single and double surface treatment. Tender for the following closed on July 29th at 2:30 p.m. For surface treatment of the fourth line of the town of Minto. 2 tenders were received for this amount of MSO construction at $1.05 per liter of 15 OS emulsion and $29 per ton of 3/8 and 1/4 inch aggregate and $29 per ton on supply and haul of 5/8 aggregate. Duncor Enterprises was the second at $1.02 per liter of your 15 OS emulsion, $34.03 per ton on your 3/8 and your 1/4 inch aggregate, and $29.52 per ton on your 5/8 aggregate. $180,000 has been budgeted for this year to complete the fourth line. And if you have any questions, I'll answer those.
Councillor Caldwell.
Just a silly question is, Duncor Enterprises, are they cheaper? It's hard to tell from this. Is there any dollar figures that we can compare the two?
Duncor, it worked out to be $3,000 less in the grand total.
They were 181,000 and the other ones were 184. Because when you actually look at the amount of liters and the amount of tons, the emulsion is by far the biggest part of it, probably like 80% of the cost. So that small decrease, when multiplied out,
That's a calculation.
yeah.
And I'm sure you said the budget was,
180.
Deputy Mayor Fisk.
Maybe in the future would be important to have that as part of the report, the total cost and the breakdown. Like right now, it looks like we're actually taking the wrong company because we're talking about 3 cents a liter, and the aggregate, there's one of them that's over $5 difference, but it doesn't tell us how many tons are being used, doesn't tell us how many liters are being used, and for us to make the proper decision, I think we need more information on those various items.
And we talked about that, and I said to him, we're gonna change the tender process, even the way it looks on the tender, different, so they total the total price on it, so.
At the end of the day, you get a total price.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions?
And I just wondered,
Go ahead, Mayor Bridge.
thank you. Is the amount down or up from last year, your actual cost per? Like asphalt's been up a bit at this moment.
The aggregates stayed basically the same. It's the emulsion. Duncor's up a penny from last year, and MSO is actually up 9 cents from last
So
year.
not a big amount.
Well, actually,
It will be when
it-
Well,
when you
well,
add-
yeah, penny on the one side though.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, 9 cents.
Can I have a mover and a seconder for this recommendation that the council receives the July 29th, 2014 report from the road foreman regarding tender 2014-09 single surface treatment, and approves the hiring of the Duncor Enterprises, Inc. at the price of $1.02 per liter for supply, and apply the HF 150S emulsion and the $34.03 per ton for supply, haul and apply the 3/8 aggregate, and $29.52 per ton for supply, haul and apply 1/4 inch aggregate. Councillor Faulkner, Councillor Elliott, all in favor of this motion? Against? It's passed. Thank you. So the last item on this agenda is the third line bridge.
Okay, tender for the third line bridge, closed August 1st at 12 noon for replacement of third line culvert. 4 tenders were received as follows. Hannah and Hamilton Construction came in at the lowest at $157,776, or 75, sorry. No glasses. Van Drill Excavating Incorporated came in at $192,329.58. Owen King Limited General Contractors came in at $246,667. And Reeves Construction came in second at $169,763.05. So $210,000, including engineering permits and construction, has been budgeted for 2014 to complete the fourth line, or third line. Sorry, that should read third line.
Yeah, we got third line and a new one.
Revised.
Okay.
Right.
Town of Minto has approved for funding in the amount of $100,000 under the Small Rural and Northern Municipal Infrastructure Fund capital program for this project. Under the terms of the funding agreement, Minto committed to awarding the tender by August 31st of 2014. So any questions?
Deputy Mayor Fisk?
Through you, Chairman Turton. I guess this be a question of Treasurer Duff. Did we budgeted 210 for this? Is that correct?
Right, yeah.
And did we know at that time we were getting 100,000 of a
Yeah.
grant?
Yes, it came about the same time.
Yeah.
That one was the one that kind of was before Christmas and then early in the new year. And between our road foreman and I, we decided to go for slightly less than 50% of the project. And we did that intentionally. Who knows, we might have got more, but yet again, not very many municipalities in our area got in. This is what we were counting on in our budget. And if you recall in the bridge inspection, that was one of the worst, what, like
Was
25
number one.
rating?
Well, we had to reduce the load there immediately, didn't we?
Yeah.
on that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and on the third.
So by going through this and identifying, yes, that's our top priority, I think we're getting our asset management plan.
So there's another 50,000 or so plus here to go towards the winter maintenance.
All engineering and design.
And that'll,
Yeah, yeah,
Other
but you
questions?
never know.
Sorry. Gord, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Other questions? Okay, so the recommendation is here, the council receives the August 1st, 2014 report from the Director of Public Services regarding tender for the third line bridge replacement and awards the tender to Hannon Hamilton Construction Company Limited in the amount of $157,775 plus applicable taxes. Can I have a motioner and a seconder, please? Mayor Bridge and Deputy Mayor Fisk. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Is that enough for now? Okay.
So on.
Thank you very much. We'll pass the chair back to our mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Turton. Other business is disclosed additional. I did have some people indicate. Dave, do you want to start off?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Bridge. This past weekend, in Palmerston and Hairston was the 6th annual Jeff Davey Memorial 3-pitch tournament, and it went over extremely well. There was 32 teams, and the Cochran family and the Heenan family and a few others continue to be instrumental in keeping this going. And I was talking with Brooke Cochran, and he figures they'll be somewhere around $15,000 again. Up until this year, they've raised a little north of $75,000, and the Davey family choose to give that money back to the community because Jeff was a sportsman, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's great to see. I know, and I spoke on behalf of Mayor Bridge and the council on Friday night, and I made sure everybody knew that the council of the town of Minto is a big supporter of this. They come to us every year for donation of the hall and the 3 ballparks, and there's not a lot of discussion. It's good for this town of Minto on that particular weekend to have that many young people and old people around, and just on behalf of that group, thank you for our participation.
It's become a community affair, and the whole community is involved. If you ever get down, you can see everybody that you want to see down there. Yeah.
Yep.
you have one?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I'd like to announce that IPM 2016 are having their kickoff and volunteer sign-up night with a barbecue and at the Hairston Community Center on August 27th. You'll see flyers around, and we will be discussing that on CKNX Radio, and we're excited about that. We're finally able to have things in place. We have our logo officially approved by the OPA, and now we're starting to kick it into high gear. So we're excited about this 27th of August kickoff. Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
On August the 16th, which is a Saturday, the Harrison Legion will be celebrating their 75th anniversary, as well as the Ladies Auxiliary, their 65th anniversary. It's going to be very informal. It's going to be corn roast barbecue. But more importantly, we're going to unveil a banner of an individual that was instrumental in the Legion for a number of years. And come this fall, there are going to be 15 such banners of 15 veterans from the Hairston Legion that will be on display on the main street, hanging from our street lights. So I'd like to invite everyone to come to that, and it's going to be a very exciting time. We're really looking forward to getting the banners up and recognizing the veterans that have gone before us and have made the country what it is today and the freedoms that we enjoy. So please, if at all able, please come and enjoy the celebration with us.
What
Time
time
to start?
is that?
11:30 Saturday morning. It'll be the unveiling. It'll be on the main street. It's a secret who that particular veteran is, but if you give it much thought, I think you'd figure it out.
Great. And have you all 15 been?
We have 15, we called it Phase 1,
Right.
because we have 15 light standards available on the main street. We're hoping that there'll be a Phase 2 next year where we'll add 15 or more, depending on the interest, and we'd eventually like to have the whole main street with banners recognizing veterans that have gone, like I said, gone before us.
Excellent. Great job. All right, I have a couple little items. One, I think I should maybe, that didn't come in the correspondence, did it? Annaline, it just came to me, so I'll just maybe read it out, because I think it involves the council a little bit. I got a letter back from the Minister, Bob Cirelli, and it was just thanking us for the inviting me to participate in the announcement of the commercial operations of the NR store, new fifth wheel energy storage facility on July 22nd, 2014. The event was a great success. I enjoyed the opportunity to see firsthand the work of NR store is doing, and I'm very impressed with the positive contributions you made to the Minto community. The technology and you're developing will help produce clean, reliable, and affordable energy. Once again, thank you for inviting, and this came to myself, and I'm assuming to the council as well, because when Bob was talking about that, about our cooperation and the fact that Minto has been a leader in innovation and also in energy. I guess we'll call it energy innovation, because of some of the other stuff that we've done. So it was a great event, and it was nice that Bob sent that letter to us. A couple little other commercials. One would be the Mayor's Tournament. We're still looking for some teams, and any sponsorship is well enjoyed, and that'll be coming next Thursday. So if you know of anybody, by all means, we need a few more teams. We're getting pretty close to filling, but it'd be nice to have a few more teams for the groups. That's about it I had. That's about everything. Yep. Moved by Councillor Faulkner, second by Deputy Mayor Fisk. The Committee of the Whole convenes as regular council. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Caldwell, second by Councillor Faulkner. The Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Moved by Counselor Elliott, second by Counselor Faulkner, bylaw number 2014-52 being the bylaw authorizing the mayor and the CAO clerk to enter in the agreement of the LAS real term lead for street light replacement be introduced and read in first and second and third time and passed open council, seal to seal the corporation. All in favor?
Quite a day.
Pardon me.
No heck.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Fisk, second by Councillor Caldwell, that the bylaw number 2014-53 being the bylaw to appoint the bylaw enforcement officer and property standards officer for the Corporation of Town of Minto be introduced and read in first, second, third time and passed in open council, seal to seal the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Faulkner, second by Deputy Mayor Fisk, the bylaw number 2014-54 being the bylaw authorizing the mayor and CEO clerk to enter in the shared parking agreement with Anthony DeSassos and Scott Young be introduced and read first, second, third time and passed in open council, seal to seal the corporation. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Turton, second by Councillor Caldwell, that the bylaw number 2014-55 being the bylaw to amend the Town of Minto zoning bylaw number 0186 part of Lot 7 Concession A, geographically Township of Minto, be introduced and read in first, second, and third time and passed in open council, seal to seal the corporation. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Turton, the bylaw number 2014-56 being the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the August 5th, 2014 committee and council meeting be introduced and read first, second, and third time and passed in open council, seal to seal the corporation. All in favor? Now, what's 5 o'clock?
Yeah, that was one we did,
Oh, we just did on the
regarding the plume tip.
plume pit, right?
That was that.
That was the plume pit. One, moved by Councillor Caldwell, second by Deputy Mayor Fisk, the Council of Town of Minto adjourned to meet again at the call of the mayor. Favor? Yeah.
And then Lee, do you want to remind everyone of volunteer dinner?
Oh, shoot, that was the other thing I was gonna say. All right, sorry, Annalee. Yeah, the volunteer dinner is Thursday, and I believe we have 175, or maybe by the time, who knows, by 200, by the, and I always laugh about that, because I usually say a show of hands, and we get maybe 200 volunteers there, and ask them how many groups they volunteer for, and it's about 600, because they all volunteer about 3 things, or 4 things usually, each one of them, so.
Mayor
I'll
Bridge,
be there, yes.
Mayor Bridge, are we okay for the amount of meat I've ordered? Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna do meat and
Hamburgers and
some
sausage.
sausages and some salads and whatnot. So everybody be there? Is everybody gonna be there?
Jump-a-thon on Wednesday.
Jump-a-thon on Wednesday.
Yeah, at the pools.
Okay.
All the volunteers come forward, the kids come forward to raise funds for different things,
Right.
and, right in place at the Palmerston Pool is the slide that the kids all raised money for the last couple of years for. It's sitting in place for a grand opening for the kids to slide down, and they held it off. The kids have been getting to get in, want to get on it, and they held it off until
Actually, I'm gonna be there tomorrow at 12:30, taking a slide down
Me-
there. so
me
be ready
also.
for it. I'm gonna hit the water.
Well,
It'll be a tidal wave. I'm telling you, it won't be pretty.
we're doing,
They did,
shouldn't go there.
they did say that it's recommended for anything 280 pounds.
yeah, we're testing.
So I'm all right. I'm just slightly under, so I'm good for now.
Yeah, they
Hopefully there'll
suggest,
be lifeguards
they
there.
suggested that you go head first. This is-
Oh, yeah. Yes, a lot of things. That might not be happening. Anyways, thank you. Have a good meeting and have a good rest of the summer. We don't meet again till September unless there's an emergency, so.